Hello. So can you hear me?
Yes.
So we can start now. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Career Talk on Application for LAM Fellowship, which is being organized by the Society for Constitutional Law Discussion. My name is Ayush Kumar, and I'll be the host for this session today. This event aims to provide valuable insights into the LAMP Fellowship and guide interested candidates through the application process for the session 2024 and 25. A brief introduction of the society. The Society for Constitutional Law Discussion was established by some of the students of Chanakya National Law University, Patna, with a vision to provide a platform for public discourse and deliberation vis-a-vis constitutional law. The society, through its magazine and blogs, intends to serve as a platform for students, academicians, and practitioners to engage in constitutional law discussion and writing. TSCLD provides a platform where you can write and express your opinion on different issues related to constitutional law. We have published approximately 80 plus well-researched articles and blogs, which you can access on our website. The session promises a rich tapestry of discussion, addresses, and interactive question answer session towards the end. Our speakers, who are none but past LAM fellows, will share their perspective and provide participants with a comprehensive understanding of the application process. So basically, there are threefold objectives of this talk. First, provide a concise understanding of the fellowship. Second, clarify the process of application, qualifications, timelines, etc. Third and last, assist interaction with the fellows to gain first-hand insights and guidance. Now, I'll start with the introduction of our speakers of the day. First, starting with Vibhuti ma'am. She is the LAM Fellow of the session 2022 and 23. After graduating from Chanakya National Law University, Patna, she was selected for the LAM Fellowship and got the incredible opportunity to be mentored by Member of Parliament. Her role involved providing extensive research support to the MP for their parliamentary work, including drafting, debates, raising matters of public importance, and drafting private members' bills. She subsequently worked as a young professional at the Ministry of Women and Child Development. Mr. Shivam Ninan, our second fellow, the second speaker, he is the LAM Fellow of the session 2020 and 21. He holds a BA LLB degree from Chanakya National Law University, Patna, who has also served as the legislative assistant to Syed Nasir Hussain, Whip Rajya Sabha. Currently, Mr. Ninan wears multiple professional hats. He is the founder of Socio Legal Corp, a platform dedicated to advancing social and legal initiatives. Concurrently, he serves as a contributor and consultant to S&P Global, showcasing a versatile skill set in both the legal and corporate domains. So we'll start with the session. Over to you, sir and ma'am.
Uh, Thank you so much, Ayush, for that introduction. Hi, Vibhuti. Hope you are doing good.
Yes,
Uh,
sir.
yeah. So the fact that we guys have been invited today for the LAMP Fellowship, and to tell you guys like, okay, how to go for the session and everything. I thought that not so much will turn up because at the end, why to go for LAMP Fellow when just now the Mahua Moitra case has happened and nobody is going,
I
you know.
know. And like basically she used lamp as the defense ki ye log bhi aate hain, all of this
Yeah.
has happened. The very
So,
dicey times to apply, but
yeah. So
nevertheless.
exactly. So all the people who are here should ask themselves like, do they want to fall in that pit of being get cornered along with the MP, or just want to go for that whole thing, like whole aura
Mhm.
and everything of Lamp Fellowship.
Mhm.
But that's the way. Uh, I think you should start the session here, Vibhuti, like about, and you can keep going on to the next
It
next.
moves forward from there. Okay.
Yeah.
So, like basic, I'll just lay the sort of foundation for what LAMP actually is and what we actually do there. And then we can go about the application process, and then we can eventually take questions if there are.
Yeah.
So, LAMP, as we say, it's like legislative assistant to the member of parliament. It's a great fellowship. It's a great experience to be in. It's like not your very orthodoxial program where the sort of it's not based on textbook learning. It's more of like a very practical experience. I think for me, the best part about the fellowship was that it recognizes that each individual path is very unique, and the program is designed as such to embrace and celebrate diversity, ensuring that your learning journeys aligns with your distinct goals and ambitions. So it's not like okay, iske baad we'll just be confined to this. I think it opens a lot of eclectic fields for you to explore. And then there's obviously the parliamentary insight that it provides. So that is one of the most standout features, that you get to gain a deep understanding of the inner workings of the governance, and through immersive experiences that take you beyond textbooks and into the heart of policy making. And yeah, so along with that, I think there's the third main thing that really appealed to me was the peer-to-peer learning, because the cohort comprises of very diverse people. It's a very dynamic cohort. Not everybody is going to be from law background. They're going to be very different. Like there are people who'd be doing their engineering, or people from microbiology background you will find over there. So basically, you get to engage with a very dynamic cohort of peers who bring a wealth of diverse experiences and perspectives on the table. So, and I think that was the very standing out experience for myself, because it fostered an environment where participants, whatever whoever were there, they share insights, challenges, and their successes. So I think that was very unique, which I don't think I would have gotten anywhere else. Yeah.
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 So starting about mine. So I graduated from the college a year ago before Vibhuti. And when that was happening, guys, we were in 2020, and that is the time when the corona was almost there. That's the first time when it was happening. And like many people, I was equally confused as to how to go about things and doing how to go about it in career wise. But all I did was I reflected back on the tons of things which I have done in my law school career, in terms of like being part of doing research work, or doing lot of legal aid work, or doing a lot of extra co-curricular which had a lot to do with conferences and stuff like that. And so that was something which got very clear for me in terms of like, okay, uh, research is something I can see myself doing for a long term, but also there is also need to be a lot of interaction in that arena, not just the a desk job research I want. It's like, okay, the work is done, but then apart from that, also the presentation of that, meeting with the people about the ideas on which I have researched, that was something I was also looking for. As a result of which, uh, I did a lot of internship also, very research centric. Again, like some of the centers of NLUD provided me that opportunity. And then out of randomly, I got to know about the LAM fellowship. So the LAM fellowship for me was the first stepping stone when it comes to about how exactly the world of public policy works, or how exactly the life of a MP moves around. And those are the very simple basic things which I never thought or I dreamt. Okay, I want to learn how does a life of a MP looks like. I never thought that this is my dream to understand, okay, how does the parliament or how does this particular question files. But the idea was a very wholesome one, in terms of like, okay, that is a something, that is one arena which is quite unattended, untouched. So like, how does that whole thing work? Like, how does it that the people randomly come? How does that, out of so many member of parliament, there are only a set number of people from a set number of party who always speaks, who always have something to speak. Like, what is the way like it goes about? And
Hmm.
in terms of that, lamp fellowship was that stepping stone. It actually pampered you in a way, in terms of night. It spoon fooded you in terms of, this is how things done. Like the first entry to understand how the parliament works, how the MPs work, how the MPs have to work. And in that process, you get to know that MPs are all over the place, and we are one of that person for them who handles their part of parliamentary work. And in that sense, that is just just quite exciting to know about. And that is how my experience was in terms of that. Because when the corona came, like the first two session, went completely online because of the whole pandemic and everything. But for the last session only, I was given the opportunity to, like, okay, come come to Delhi, come attend the parliament. So that the fact of whole corona and all, we could only come in person one session. But the, like the amount of exposure it gave, like Vibhuti said, like the amount of people, the number of people you meet, because the cohort is quite diverse. When she tries to says, like people are from engineering or microbiology, you might wonder for a while, like, okay, how is it that the guy from microbiology is adding to me? But in that sense, like the ideas and the different thought processes which comes into the picture, that is a whole different thing. Like the different policy perspective which comes from that, that is a whole different thing, I guess. And that was something which I felt, was there. And then the number of MPs you get to meet every day, like, and the number of stakeholders you get to meet every day. And it helps you in growing as a person. It helps in growing your outlook as a person, in terms of like, okay, this is how things move around, and you are just a cog in the wheel who has to help the member of parliament. So that's how it works. Moving on to
Exactly. I also would like to add that your idea and your perspectives on things change so drastically. Like when you would go, you will have like a certain perception of a certain MP कि oh ये ऐसे होंगे या oh this is going to be like a really right wing person or this is going to be really left wing person. And then when you actually go there and you realize कि oh it's actually not like that. Like individual MPs are might be very different from the parties that they are in. They might absolutely believe in absolute different policies that they are sort of purporting, and then you get to be a privy to all of that. Okay, he doesn't believe in this, but like he's sort of going on, and then you start understanding okay, even they don't have it all figured out, like they want to purport something else. So basically it's just like, and sometimes that might also happen that you come from a different ideology and they'll place you into some absolutely different ideology altogether, and it's all about making those things, like getting those things done. It might be absolutely against everything you believe in, but then you will be making bills uh, like on stuff that you don't really believe in, but you'll have to do that. So I think that also allows you to sort of gain deeper insights into okay, I used to think this way, but okay, this way I don't completely agree with, but it's not as horrible as I thought it was. Or maybe your favorite MP is not as good as you thought he was, or maybe the MP you thought was not so good is amazing. So I think you get to know a lot, like inside stuff also. So I think that's the fun part. Yeah. So let's moving on to the process. So like there are two, like I think they added this interview sorry, this test thing afterwards. It wasn't there before, but like the main thing is there's one, they ask you for a policy essay, then they ask you for a statement of purpose as to why do you want to join this program, and then there's this additional step of a test that they take now online. So and then after that there's an interview process. So it's, you see, it's a long process, but I think it's totally worth it. So basically, if we start from policy essay issues, so we need to see how can you tailor your essay such that there are certain guidelines that which they are sort of looking for, and we need to
Depends
sort of
the
tailor our.
policy wala, like the slide, so that she can explain it better. You know, the policy. I think she. Like, yeah.
Yeah, that is the policy. So like they have a marking scheme from like 0 to 5, and like everything. They have like certain pointers under which they want your essays to be, and on the basis of that, they're going to evaluate it. So I think first and most important thing is for us to understand the assignment as to what they're expecting, and basically identifying the key elements of our essay, what are the requirements, and what, like I said, any specific guidelines that they're involved, which there are certainly. So the first and most important thing which I personally learned a little later in my process of writing my essay is that it's very important to choose a very relevant yet an impactful topic. And that is to say कि अब ऐसा भी नहीं है that you pick something that is so diverse. Like it obviously needs to be something that you're really interested and passionate about, because if you reach the when you reach the interview round, they are going to ask you questions from your policy essay. Main questions gonna be that. So like you need to pick a topic that you can actually show that you're really passionate about. So what I did, this is one mistake that I made when I was writing my policy essay, that I chose UCC as my topic, which was so huge. Like I was really passionate about that topic. I did a lot of research, but the problem, and in hindsight, I didn't realize that your essay needs to be like 500 words, and you have like certain things that needs to be fit in that criteria, and it was such a big topic. And also it could be very politically, on those lines. You don't know what kind of people are going to take your interview, so it's always better to pick something which is very neutral, which where you can sort of give your insights in a manner which seems totally tailored in very argumentative and reasonable way. Like there should be no leaning towards any side, or even if there are, it shouldn't be very visible. So I think that's the most important key to choosing a relevant and impactful topic. So a lot later in the admission process, I switched it to some bill that had come at that point of time. I had chosen the marriageable age of women, that the bill that they came, which proposed that the marriageable age for the women should be 21. So I picked that up because it's a very comprehensive bill. Chota sa bill hai. It was 20 पेज का bill था. You could easily tell कि okay, इसमें ये आपके issue है, इसको क्यों लेके आया गया है, और इसके क्या implications हो सकते हैं, इसके क्या implications है. So very balanced and very limited. So when they ask you about it, it's not कि आपको कहीं से भी पूछे. It didn't have like a very long history, and it was something that you could cover. So please make sure that your topic is very relevant. So आज के time पे I think you can pick a very dynamic topics. 370 has just come yesterday. I think that would make a great topic if anybody is interested. And I think DPDP bill has also uh, been in news in the past year. So I think that would also make a great topic. So first and foremost is like choosing your topic very. It should be very impactful and yet relevant. And then the second point would be to research very extensively about it. And please use reputable sources. Please कोई Wikipedia मत cite करना वहाँ पे जाके. And this might sound funny as like a Wikipedia कौन cite करता है, but actually there are people who have done that and they have been scored accordingly. So please cite very reputable sources. Consult academic articles, government reports, policy paper, expert opinion, and like basically ensure that your information is all up to date. I think in this slide also we have mentioned some of the sources that you can use. I think kahin pe aage, Ayush, there's yeah, like the piche wala slide. Yes. So these like ye kuch organizations hai who work in policy research, and like you can use their data, because like there's this one running joke. Whenever you say something in policy, the other person says ki, okay, show me the government data. Where are you citing it from? So then I think the next step would be crafting a very strong thesis statement as to जो भी आपका topic है उसके regarding. So we need to develop a very clear and concise thesis statement that sort of outlines your major argument. That thesis would sort of provide, uh, basically you are expressing your stance on the matter. which doesn't need to be very radical, but it's very important कि आप बस उसका एक बिल का एनालिसिस ना करके एक खुद का भी थोड़ा ओपिनियन रखो, which should be based on data and numbers. Like I said, it shouldn't be very leaning. I think that's the most important point. We need to provide context and background, and like a comprehensive overview of the policy issue, provide context, historical background, key facts that would help the reader to understand the complexity of the problem that you're trying to solve or you're trying to analyze through your essay. And then we need to present basically well structured arguments in each paragraph, and the each paragraph should focus on a very specific aspect of your argument. There should be a very smooth flow between the ideas. एक पैराग्राफ में आप एक आइडिया हाईलाइट करेंगे एंड नेक्स्ट पैराग्राफ में दूसरा आइडिया हाईलाइट करेंगे इन अ वे दैट दे आर सॉर्ट ऑफ वीविंग इनटू अ टेपेस्ट्री इनटू ईच अदर. ऐसा नहीं लगना चाहिए कि ये इसके बाद हम हिस्ट्री के बाद हम सीधा कुछ से कहीं और यूएस के बारे में बात करने लगे. हिस्ट्री के बाद वी विल टॉक अबाउट द करंट एस्पेक्ट एंड लाइक व्हाट दिस बिल इज टू achieve. So like that, and then we need to use our evidence very effectively when we are presenting our ideas. Like towards the end, if we are saying ki, for example, the bill which proposed that we'll change the marriageable age for women to 21. So if we are to, like, without taking sides, if I am to present an idea, I would not say ki nahi aisa nahi hona chahiye or something like that. I would present ki see it has been 18 for a while, and these are the stats that it has not been effective so far. 18 has been the age, and still we have so much stats, and you quote the stats that shows that women to this age have been getting married at the age of 13 and 15. And basically child marriage is not void as such. It's voidable, it's not illegal as such. आप illegal तो नहीं कर रहे हो उस शादी को, तो it does not matter आप 18 कर लो, 21 कर लो, 25 कर लो. What you're trying to achieve is it's a great idea, but I feel that it's not going to be achievable through this, or this policy might fail in this areas, because even at 18 the stats show that there are women who are getting married at 13 and 15, and the legislation of 18 also has not been able to sort of curb it. So I don't understand how 21 is going to curb it either, because that is a policy gap that you have identified and mentioned in your essay. You're getting, I hope you're getting the points. And this is like, this is the counter argument that you sort of present, that okay, this is, you acknowledge this viewpoint and then you address it in a very respectful manner. So this demonstrates that you can critically evaluate the different perspectives, and that sort of strengthens your argument. And then you have to be very clear and concise. I don't think you even have the levy to be not be concise, because it's just a 500 words essay. So basically, avoid very unnecessary jargon or overly complexing sentences. You really don't need to use the big words, but make sure whatever you're writing is very concise and to the point. And lastly, I think you create a very persuasive conclusion where you basically summarize all your main points and restate your thesis, which you had initially began with, in the conclusion, and emphasize the significance of your argument and suggest potential avenues for the further research. For example, you can say that maybe government should try sort of pushing for higher education for women. That way, if a woman say is pursuing higher studies, she's less likely to get married at 18 or 19 if she has, things like that. So I think that should cover you up for the policy essay bit. Shivam sir will tell you about how to go about SOP. So yeah. Also, sir, if you might have any points to add into the policy essay thing, also you might, if I've missed something. You're not audible. I think you're muted.
Yeah. Ayush, can you go back to the policy way? You know, uh, yeah, just hold to that one. Because I guess this slide should have been there when she was speaking all along, like so that the people could have got a better idea about what she was trying to go for it. So I'll just try to summarize it, what she said in the 1 minute, just to help the people and give them a good context. So, guys, so the idea is like, like whatever topic you guys are choosing at the end of the day, Choose a topic with which you are comfortable with. Do not try to, for instance, for let's say that I'm going to be the judge. Do not choose a topic keeping in mind what topic should I write which will impress me. Write a topic with which you are comfortable with which you think that you are willing to go to the extent of actually doing the basic research to understand it in depth and analysis. That is how any topic should be explored or touched, to be honest. Like when you are at this preliminary stage of applying for lamp fellowship or in the preliminary stage of entering in the life of public policy. It's a very hotshot cool word, but try to keep it very simple for yourself. So choose a topic with which you are comfortable with, and then start thinking and writing about it in a very simple manner. Like what came first, what happened next, what happened next, in the sense, like, talk about the bill first of all. So one of the thing which is like, mention clearly like which bill you are talking about. Just don't be very vague in terms of writing about. For instance, Vibhuti talked about the bill for the 21, so like in her policy essay, she would have started with, like, okay, this is whatever thing is happening, but this particular policy, this particular bill is something, she is concerned about, she wants to talk about. So ensure the name of the bill is there. Then the legislative intention of the bill. So for the reader to know what exactly is it that this bill is particularly talking about, because I will read your article or your policy essay with a view that, okay, I don't know anything, so you tell me all about this bill in 500 words. Whatever you will tell me, I will go and believe through that, through your data, through your analysis, through your description, through your, like whatever number and speeches you will try to put in your policy essay. So think of it like that. Like then what is the legislative intention? Then she gave the reasoning for the whole thing, like why it is 18, why it should not be in 21. So like, has something like that happened in the past? Some committee has happened, some Supreme Court judgment has happened, something like that. That is something you write in the historical background. Then you talk about the current bill, what the current bill is actually talking about. Then you talk about the flaws and demerits. Now, one thing which she has explained, I'll just emphasize once more, that when you are talking about the flaws and demerits, just don't say it that it's a bad bill or it's a good bill. It is a good bill. Why? Because कोई एक पर्टिकुलर कमिटी के रिपोर्ट ने ये कुछ डेटा के साथ ये कहा है कि ऐसा अगर होगा तो बेटर कुछ इससे होगा, so it makes sense. That is why you believe that okay, it is a better thing. See, if it is not, then show na that okay, there was some report or there was some survey which shows that people are dissatisfied, which shows that people are not happy with these kind of things. It is a public sentiment which is there, and that is why it is not there. ये सब होने के बाद, what do you think of this whole thing? Now write your analysis of the whole thing and then conclude it with some recommendations, like what is it that which can be improved. Like not just
Yeah.
like the whole analysis, but आपको क्या लगता है कि एक दो चीज और क्या कर सकते हैं? रिकमेंडेशन भी ऐसा नहीं कि बस अब रैंडम ओपिनियन कुछ दे दी कि भैया ऐसा हो रहा था तो इससे कुछ ऐसे बदल देना था. Your
Hmm.
recommendation should also be reported somewhere, that which has not been used in the public at in public debate till now, but it is still a recommendation somewhere in some country, in some country's
You
parliament.
can,
That also
yeah.
as a recommendation.
You can sort of
And
you can draw parallels between your law with some other country's law which has already been established, and you can sort of take from their successful models what are the different things that they did which we can also take from, and sort of how did they apply, what did they do differently, and उस हिसाब से you can tailor your argument in the Indian context, for
yeah,
example.
so that is the simple way of going for it, so that like when you read on your when you read your essay, it should look like a story to you. It should not look like ki like you started somewhere, then you missed out somewhere, then the coherence was missing. This I have usually written in the bullet points just to give, like if you write it accordingly, it usually gives you a little bit of a coherence, like like okay, this is how you go for it. If you think there is a better way to go for in your case, go and approach it that way. But like it should make sense. Every another paragraph should be related with the upper one and the next one to it. It should not just be put in or has like it's just trying to scooch itself in between two paragraphs. So just try to avoid that part. That's the only thing for the policy essay. Okay. And I guess now we can move to the statement of purpose. Uh, okay. So, statement of purpose is a very tricky question. Okay. Why am I saying this? Is that statement of purpose is actually like everyone has their own story. I cannot tell any one of you how to go about your story or how should I go about. All I could just share right now here is how did I went about my story when I told them about like why do I want to go for the Lamb Fellowship. But then in that also there are some simple basic questions your SOP demands from you, which they will look for in your SOP. Because believe me, like as much as policy essay is important, so is the statement of purpose. Now, there are two or three simple questions which you have to answer in your SOP, which is like first, why do you want to crack the Lamb Fellowship? Like basically, why you need this fellowship? Why they should take me? Third, what after the Lamb Fellowship? Okay, like let's say that they give me this 1 year of opportunity. What will I do after that? And how exactly lamp is playing that important role in my life, which is prepping me up for the next stage of the life. Because all the thing like okay, lamp is prestigious, lamp gives you like fame, some credibility, but it ends after 1 year, no? So what after that? And how is it that lamp is helping you in achieving the next big height which you want in your life? So think of it in that way. So I'll tell you like how did I went for my SOP, and then probably Vibhuti can also share like her experience of like how she went about her SOP probably. And then if we can take some Q&A and wrap this up session. It's already afternoon. You guys are missing out on lunch, I'm sure. So starting with the SOP. So let me tell you like whatever I wrote in my SOP, first of all, it was something which I did all along, but it was never interrelated. Why am I saying this? So that for you to understand how a SOP is actually written, it's like hundred of things are spreaded everywhere, and you have to summate it together and make it look like one glorious story for yourself. So how it all happened that in first year I did not do anything. Okay, because I was again busy preparing for the CLAT exam. Like okay, have to get better NLUs. Like the whole thing. Probably all of us went through some time in our life. When that crushed, then what I did, I did a lot of research papers because that was something I felt like solely I can do for myself. So like I wrote some 14, 15 research papers in a span of 1 year, which I felt like okay was enough to save myself from some existential crisis going in the life. That started helping in terms of going for the conferences in that sense. Then legal aid was something which I felt I was quite comfortable in, because mooting or debate was not something I was so much into. But then again, legal aid, going out in schools or colleges and doing the whole legal awareness campaign, that was something which excited me a lot. And suddenly people were like, fine, the work I was doing got appreciated. I was put into the client counseling department of the legal aid, where again, out of nowhere, every Thursday, Friday, I had to sit in the legal aid room and meet people. I have to listen to their queries and their grievances and everything. Then finally, in the fifth year, the whole Vidikta thing had to happen. And yeah, then I became the convener for that. So it was something which was happening all along in that sense. And there was nothing ki, this is how I wanted to do. Now, why I'm telling you is this, that how did I started my SOP? Something looked like this. It started with something, and in that time, like the fact ki what Social Legal Corp is right now, at that time, Social Legal Corp was nothing. Social Legal Corp started at that time also in fourth year. What Social Legal Corp at that time was like, the fact that I was doing a lot of legal awareness campaign. So I felt like, okay, 5-6 लीगल अवेयरनेस कैंपेन की अब खुद से एक दो तो करा सकते, इतना तो मेरे को भी करना आता है, उसमें करना क्या है। तो एक ऑर्गेनाइजेशन शुरू की कि सोशल लीगल कॉर्प करके शुरू करेंगे। एक दो स्कूल में भी गए, वहां पे एक मदरसे में गए, बिहार के सबसे बड़े मदरसे में हमने वहां के किया, एक दो मिशनरीज में जाके हमने लीगल एड किया। बट उसके बाद पता चला कि यार खर्चा बहुत बैठता है, लाइक बेसिक कम्यूटेशन जाने का, आने का, प्लान करने का, 4 बार फॉलो अप लेना प्रिंसिपल से कि होगा कि नहीं होगा, एग्जाम है कि छुट्टी हो जा रही, और अपना कॉलेज मैनेज कर, इस प्रोसेस में इट वाज नॉट गोइंग एनीवेयर अप until the whole corona happened and it all went up online. I hope you guys can imagine ki, like this is how it was all going in the tandem. When I started writing my SOP, It all started with something like this, कि 5 साल पढ़ने के बाद जो है, after studying 5 years in law school, law and public policy is something I am deeply passionate about. Now, what I'm trying to tell you is that every line which you write about yourself, it should be backed with some kind of proof or evidence. Okay, so that it should not just be like, okay, that I'm the topper, or I think I'm quite intelligent, that's why I should be taken to the Lamb Fellowship. So when I said that, ki, uh, okay, in the 5 years of law school, I have prepared me for this interdisciplinary of law and public policy. How do I prove that? I said when I was in the first year, I got into the legal awareness campaign where I started doing the whole legal awareness thing. So what I did, so I did not talk about the focused on the awareness part. I said during that awareness, I got to know about RTI Act. I got to know about SCST Act. I talked about right to information or right to education act. When I started reading about these acts, and then I got excited, like, okay, this is how these acts are having an impact on the society. So I started writing research papers out of excitement, and which I said that out of randomly, I was just writing bunch of research papers. I made a story of that I got inspired from knowing and doing all this legal awareness, and then I started writing my research paper at this point of time. Then I also wrote that after doing this, I was upgraded to the client counseling. Again, when I started dealing with the people, there were people who used to come for the domestic abuse or stuff like that. Again, I did not focus and talked about ki, okay, this is how I was helping the people for the social cause. Again, I picked up, like, again over there I got to know about the acts which impacts on the people in terms of domestic abuse. How is IPC is helping people? Where are the remedies measured? All these things started inspiring me, motivating me, that how public policy, how a law is making a huge impact on the masses. I hope you guys are getting the sense of it. Like, it's making complete story. Like, it's not like I'm just saying कि कुछ मेरे को अच्छा लग रहा है तो इसलिए मैं करना चाह रहा हूँ. It started making sense. Then I went to Nepal for some human rights conferences. So I added that also, like, कि I wanted to do something in this field. So I went there, met people, change makers, wanted to understand the world, how the policies all across the world is helping and shaping. It had nothing. It was a fluke. Somebody recommended me. So I got selected for Nepal. I went there. I represented India and everything. But it had nothing to do with public policy at that point of time. It was all about going to Nepal on a 5-day trip. That's how it all started. And probably that's the kind of hundred of things which you guys have done in your law school. But then everything which I have done, I made it a point that it looked like a story. Like every next step which was happening in my life was destined. It was something I had planned. I had, it needs to be corroborated. And that's how it started looking like. Eventually, in the fifth year, I got internship at Center for Criminology and Victimology at NLUT. So you see, that was by luck because Project 39, it didn't felt I was useful enough to do internship under them. And so the other organization was the CCV, where I felt like, okay, they selected me. But again, it made sense, luckily, that even in the legal aid, I was doing all about, client counseling, which had to deal with crime and criminology, stuff like that. And here also, again, somehow back, working at Center for Criminology and Victimology. So I again used it. And over there, I worked at witness protection scheme. So I again used that the amount of like research work which I have done, the questionnaires I have done, how much understanding I have gained. So it all made sense, like, okay, from 5 years, I have been preparing myself for this LAMP fellowship. And if I don't get this, what will happen to me? Like it's their loss that, like a guy who has been so much into this thing is not getting the LAMP fellowship. And in this, then I also talked about my leadership quality, like, okay, I have started social legal corp, like, where I'm doing this, not only that I was doing it for the college, I started something of my own. And once this fellowship ends, after gaining the expertise and experience, I want to start social legal corp, ताकि उसी में मैं आगे काम कर सकूं, मैं आगे एलएलएम कर सकूं, ताकि और एक्सपीरियंस और एक्सपर्टीज के बाद जो है मैं एसएलसी को ही एक थिंक टैंक बना सकूं, या फिर एक मीडिया के तौर पे जो इससे आगे बिल्ड कर सकूं. So far it actually happened somehow like that, ki after the lamp fellowship I actually did LLM. I am actually still working with SLC. It actually grew, like when I wrote about SLC was not even on the Instagram page. Now it is around some 20,000 decent followers. But believe me, it was never planned. It was never me being that ambitious or me being that set. It all started with an idea that whatever was, as I said, things were spreaded. I just submitted them all and made it look like one good story, which looks, like one after the other, one after the another, one after the another. So the point is, the moral of telling you guys something as brutal and something as crude in this language is just to make you feel that probably all of you must have done something from फर्स्ट ईयर टू फिफ्थ ईयर इन बिट्स एंड पीसेस, प्रोबेबली थिंकिंग चलो ये भी कर लेते हैं, या दोस्त ने कुछ ये किया तो ये भी कर लेते हैं, या कुछ रैंडमली किसी ने कोर्स बेच दिया तो खरीद के ये भी कर लेते हैं. Use all of that, make sense from it in a way that which makes you an ideal candidate for lamp fellowship. And in doing all of this, see how did I answer those four questions. So I told them about all of these things. Why I need lamp fellowship? Because after this I want to do LLM and I want to do social legal corp for building own public policy thing. Why they should take me, I have answered that enough. I did social legal corp, I did client counseling, I did legal awareness, I organized India's first legal aid fest with Hikta. I was the guy who did that. What after lamp? Again, I have added how lamp plays a role. I told them, like I learned things from my MP, like okay, this is how parliament functions, this, that, and it will again help me out in building SLC, something like that. So I made a story which I didn't know it will pan out like this, but that is how I made a story. It was a complete false story. It was my nobody's 5 year can be planned. If anyone tells you like my 5 year was planned, this is how I always wanted my 5 year to look like. Believe me, people still come and they still say they are clueless. Probably I'm also clueless where I'm going with the life, but and everyone is questioning and doubting themselves after every semester, probably, like what next or what more things or extracurricular things to do. And that's a very normal thing to do, guys. So, and in that sense, nobody is special and everybody is going through some sort of existential crisis, more or less. So that's the whole thing I would say. Use everything at your disposal, whatever you guys have done. Even if you guys have done some youth parliament, use that. If you guys have done debating, writing, some research, moot court, don't focus so much on the moot court, focus on the laws which you used. Take that, learn, use it in your SOP to make sense, like okay, how you are so interconnected to law and public policy. And usually people say it's not relevant, but I really feel that the people who are from the law background, they usually get an edge over the other people in the lamp fellowship. It's a very, because we already come from that mindset, we have faced enough toxicity, we know how things actually works. Ki, we are already upgraded to that extent. So that's from my side, guys.
Yeah,
Uh,
they actually do. So, like Sir said, ki he sort of weaved into a story. Like unka story, I would say, was still pretty much like he did with Ikta. He did all of those things. He was still like very fairly better candidate than most of us. Now, some of us, like people like me, ठीक है तो I didn't have Vidikta, I didn't have Nepal वाला conference, neither did I had that 39A वाला cool cheese. Okay, and like if you go to the lamp fellowship ka website, you will find people, so like they have this section, meet the fellow section they have, and like you will see all these candidates, and like that's what I used to do personally while writing my SOP. Is I used, so like they have excerpts of their SOPs there. If you go to meet the fellow section, you will see that there are a lot, like her batch ka they have put every fellow over there, and they have excerpts from their SOPs, like they've mentioned. So like I would go there and I would see things like कि मैंने अफ्रीका में बच्चों को खाना खिलाया है, मैंने मैंने ये किया है, and मतलब they were like people have actually done so much work कि I went to the grassroots levels of village panchayat and I have seen how these policy things work, and then you would think to yourself कि ओ भाई मतलब इसका नहीं होएगा तो और किसका होगा. But then, if we talk about myself, I had the hardest time to write my SOP, and if it weren't for Shivam sir, had to check it 3 times before it was finalized, and I thank him. क्योंकि वो बहुत ही every time it would be so drastically different from the previous one, and I had such a hard time to write my SOP. Policy essay was done in half a day. It was like a
yeah.
no-brainer. SOP is the main thing because यार policy essay से बहुत भयंकर articles आप लोग already लिख चुके हैं in my opinion. But like मेरा SOP particularly had the hardest time writing because I didn't have anything to show for it. like even to weave a story you need something. मेरे पास कुछ भी नहीं था, ठीक है? So like if you look at my CV, it's like I did my first year internship in a district court under a lawyer. Then the second semester would be under a district court judge. Then next year it would be under a high court lawyer, then a high court justice, then a supreme court lawyer, then a supreme court justice. So it was like all litigation there. There was nothing policy to show for it, and I had absolutely nothing to show for it. And like in co-curriculars, I was the member of moot court committee, which again has like very little to do with policy. So how I went about it is like I still did not know. I knew I'm a litigation to nahi kari hu, even though all of my CV is for litigation. But then again, the way I started my SOP and how I weaved it was ki I always wanted to do an eclectic. I always wanted to join an eclectic field in life. That's why I joined law, because law gives you an opportunity to go like very diverse with things. You don't have to be in litigation. You don't have to go into corporate. You can be an academician, you can be a judge or whatever. So like just sort of mentioning कि वो मुझे हमेशा से eclectic fields पसंद थी. And then my law school experience taught me like this I've done. And you mentioned that you have like sort of gone through all the hierarchy of legal, and then you sort of mentioned this very peculiar thing which I did, that I wanted to go to legal policy because I had nothing to show in the generality of policies, because I had not done anything. So you take it from there and you take it from okay, there are so many lacunas in the legal justice system, and there's so many judicial reforms that judiciary could use. We can, even though the digitization has come and everything, but if you still go to the district court, you will see sari files, it's just ek ke upar ek padi rehti hai. There's so many pendency of cases, etc., etc. So I made my policy about legal policy altogether. And then from that, like from a very particular experience, I mentioned that 498A or something about some women laws I had when I was working with a justice. I found out okay, it's considered a bad law. 98% of the cases filed are false. And how are these cases implementing like the real cases also? Like there's a bias towards the real cases also. Okay, ye bhi jhoota hi hoga. So like that, from those you pick up. And also it helps that my policy essay was also women and child, you know so you sort of weave it through that. Whatever you have done, the best thing about policy is that policy is also really eclectic. It could be gaming policy, it could be women and policies related to women and children, it could be relating to law. So like whatever you have done, you can say okay, this policy interests me, which is something that I did because I had really nothing to show for social things like the other candidates. That And that's the thing, that they're looking for a diverse cohort. So like probably if somebody who has fed children in Africa, if there are two candidates, that they might prefer you over them also, because it's the diversity they want. It's not just like the same similar. So like it's not like that you have something to worry about if you do not have these experience, is what I'm trying to tell. And then throughout the fellowship also, I think you need to make a sort of base. So like my policy essay was on women and child, and the questions I filed and the bills I sort of made, I made sure to sort of push my MP to push my agendas, even though that seldom works, seldom doesn't. But eventually out of it, I could make a profile that showed ki, okay, I'm really interested in the policies of like legal policy and policies that concern women and child development, which I could take myself further with, which when I applied to the Ministry of Women and Child Development. So like I didn't mean to, but like it just sort of, it forms that way. It eventually forms that way, like sir said, कि वो जरूरी नहीं है कि वो सच हो, but like it weaves itself in this way that you actually have something to show for it, and you just need to sound really convincing that okay, ये तो मैं करना ही चाहती थी, मतलब मुझे नहीं लोगे तो किससे लोगे. So like that, I think that's
That's
more or
art.
less. Yeah. And then there's interview, and interview में आपकी policy ऐसे से ही सवाल होते हैं, and आपके CV से सवाल होते हैं, and it's a very general conversation. It's not like कुछ interview जैसा नहीं होता. It's just a conversation. They just sort of try to gauge how much of it you actually mean and how much were you fluking. So वहाँ पे तो the trick is कि okay, no, I have always been passionate about this.
Yeah.
So yeah.
If anyone has any queries, just hit up, guys. unless we were good enough that we already answered all on our own, you know.
I hope so.
If anyone has any question, he also can raise their hands. I'll unmute them and they can ask them.
Okay then.
Yes, Snigdha, go ahead.
Good afternoon, ma'am, sir. So,
Hi.
my question is, as sir said, that there will be a written after the application form is submitted and it's selected, there will be a written test as well. So, I wanted to know about that.
So it's fairly, it basically asks you questions on policy issues only. So I have seen last, like it started this year only, so I cannot, there's not a ऐसा कोई बहुत format नहीं है, but what they asked was basically all the, like it was related to the bills that were passed in that session. So keep an eye out for what's passing. Like you can go to the PRS ka website and they will tell you what are the bills that are being presented, what are the bills that have been referred to a committee, or what are the bills that have been passed. So like just, and they put it beautifully. You will just find pointers of each bill and what's this. So I think last questions were from DPDP bill, and it was two pass. So it was something related to that, and there was another bill which I do not remember what it was, but it was also again regarding some recent parliamentary process only, like some bill that had been tabled. So it's usually एक ही अभी तक हुआ है, so I cannot tell you for sure कि उसी से पूछेंगे, but उसी से पूछेंगे मतलब कि, or it could be regarding the parliamentary process also. They might give you a situation कि your MP has asked you to do this, and how will you go about it? Like say if they might ask you ki if you are asked to make a parliamentary bill, how will you make it? And then you have to sort of mention the whole process कि okay, you will first of all you will go with the statement and objective of the bill, and then you will जो कुछ एक हर बिल में जो एक कॉमन चीजें होती है, you need to mention that कि okay, वो statement of purpose से start करके so what of objectives, object of statements. That's how you start your bill, and then ये कहाँ लगेगा, applicability clause you will use, or you know it's basically fairly reasonable to जो हर बिल में जो चीजें होती है कि कहाँ applicable होगा, कौन कौन इसके स्टेक होल्डर्स होंगे, इसमें आप अपने बिल में क्या इशू ये एड्रेस कर रहा है, और all of that कि how will you go about making a bill, or how will you draft a parliamentary question कि आपका क्या फोकस होएगा उस वक्त. तो इट वुड बी फेयरली रिलेटेड टू political scenario of that point. अब जैसे elections are here, so they might ask you questions on like recent issues of that also. It's like basically everything under the sun which is sort of related to policy if you can. But if you have to narrow it down, if you can't study everything, make sure at least your paces of the bills which are being introduced and which are being passed are covered. They might ask a question on 370 since it has been like whole thing in this recent. So I think they might ask something regarding that. But just make sure your recent bills wala issue is covered.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am.
Anything else?
Ma'am Sunjana Mishra asks, how current does the policy essay topic should be?
It doesn't need to be very current. Matlab, it's good if it's current, but it doesn't need to be. It could be an old bill also. It could be how, it could be anything. It doesn't even need to be a bill. It could be a policy idea also. It could be a directive principle on the state policy also. You can use like literally any article till 51, and you can actually write a policy essay on an article also. Ki how has the government fared on this particular thing also. Like, it doesn't need to be something recent, but make sure that you are able to answer everything about that topic, because your major interview chunk or the questions will be from your policy essay only. It just helps if it's recent.
Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am. Next, Anika Sahgal asks, this fellowship is only for people who have completed their college, right? Or the students who are still in college can also apply?
You can
Student final year, students in the
finally.
final, and there's an age limit also 25. Unless that has been lifted, I don't know.
No,
But
it
yeah,
has not. No, no.
so 25 is the age limit also.
Right, sir. We don't find many questions.
All right. Just shift to other, list of other fellowship, Ayush.
Sure, sure.
Mukherjee Fellowship is very popular these days. स्टाइपेंड
Yeah.
की वजह से.
Yeah. So like there are several fellowship guys. One is the Mukherjee Fellowship, which is not mentioned, but Mukherjee Fellowship is exactly let me say
What's LAMP?
exact replica of what LAMP Fellowship is. It just pays you higher. It pays you around 50K, and one thing I'll tell you that there is a difference of C between what the LAMP and the Mukherjee Fellowship is. The primary reason which I would tell you for this is the amount of net worth which the LAMP alumni holds. I don't think any alumni right now holds in terms of the public policy. You know, so you go in any fellowship, like, but like almost the people from the LAMP are almost in everywhere. Like they are in government, they are in ministry, they are heading some in some MNCs or stuff like that. In embassies, things like that. So that is some that you might have to choose for a year, like whether you want 50K or like or you want a rich
You want
alumni.
the tag.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that is the one thing. But apart from that, there are other fellowship also you guys can keep an eye on. I don't know for all of it you are, if you guys are eligible or not, because some they look for master, sometimes for some they just look for like, okay, if you are a graduate, feel free to apply. But yeah, just keep an eye on these fellowship as well. Like the Gandhi Fellowship is there, Young India Fellowship is there, Chief Minister Good Governance Associate Program is a good one. There was the last one, the Chief Minister Urban Leadership Fellowship Program of Delhi, that has been shut down because the LG has shut it down because AAP was recruiting its own people only over that, so that got shut off.
Yeah.
uh, and urban fellows program are there, SBI Youth for India. So go for these one basically. But yeah, Teach for India and Azim Premji Foundation are good one. Why I'm telling you is that always when you guys are applying for fellowship, look for the and look at how old that fellowship has been running and how prestigious that fellowship is. In terms of like Azim Premji is, we all know like who Azim Premji is. Like to be someone associated with his organization or his fellowship goes a long way in terms of letter of recommendation and stuff like that. Similarly goes for the Teach for India and things like that as well. Others are the recent one. Mahatma Gandhi Fellowship is equally a prestigious one where you have to work for a period of 2 years and probably in collaboration with some IIM, which they rotate you in some district ilaka, stuff like that, which is again a very good opportunity if you guys get that opportunity. Uh, Apart from that, if any one of you like welcome to all of you, like like who came and listened to us, if you guys want to review your policy essay or your SOP, feel free to reach out to me on that aspect as well. I have a lot of time these days, to be honest, so like if you guys wanted to be reviewed your essay and policy, do let me know. I would love to review it for you guys. you know that's all from my side.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, Ayush.
Thank you so
Just
much, ma'am. Thank you so much, sir. I would
I
like
used
to
to
extend my heart.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just drop my phone number, like because in case people want to
Yes, sir.
contact,
Yes, sir. We'll mail them.
yeah, just so that.
Yes, sir.
mm,
So
Okay.
I extend my heartfelt gratitude to our esteemed speakers for gracing us with their presence and sharing their profound insights. I would also like to extend my heartfelt appreciation to all the participants for your active engagement and contributions. Your insights are invaluable to us, and we encourage you to share your thoughts through our feedback form, which I'll be circulating in the chat box now. Please take a moment to fill out the feedback form accurately. Additionally, e-certificates will be mailed to you within a week.
Thank
So
you.
this is how. Thank you so much, ma'am, again. Thank
Be
you, sir.
kind.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys. Thanks, everyone. It was fun talk.
All the best, guys.
Thank you.
Bye bye. Should we can leave, right?
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Okay. Bye.
Thank you, ma'am.